Hello and welcome to Shaka Extra Time. I am Paul Ndiho. Joining me from his home in Arlington, Virginia is Shaka Sali himself, aka the Kamala Kid. Hello, Shaka.
Hello, Ndugu Paul.
How are you?
I remain simple, easy, and as some of my fans have suggested, an awesome son of Mother Africa.
Let's get into it. There's a lot of excitement here. The Democratic nominee for president, Joe Biden, finally unveiled his running mate, and that is Senator Kamala Harris. Let's start there. Your thoughts on Senator Kamala Harris and whether or not this pick was a great pick?
Well, it seems to me from everything I have seen, everything that I have heard about it, it seems to have been overwhelmingly welcomed, really, especially for the supporters of the Democratic Party. And of course, it was also equally welcomed very differently by the Republican Party of President Donald Trump. Senator Kamala Harris seemed to be a front runner right from the word go. And as of course Joe Biden said, one of the important aspects that made Kamala Harris an overwhelming choice was a previous relationship between Kamala Harris and Beau Biden. Beau Biden, the late, of course. Kamala Harris, let's face it, she's a very, very smart lady in her own right. Not only was this choice, of course, particularly historic, but she is the type of person who actually is used to history, making history. Mind you, she was the first black woman district attorney of the great city of San Francisco. She was also the first black woman attorney general of the largest state in the union, the Golden State of California. She was also, she's also, of course, as you know, a junior senator from California. She seems to have had so many firsts.
So she could eventually become the first female president of the United States.
It's quite possible because, after all, when you think about it, if Joe Biden wins the November elections, she becomes the vice president, and as they say, a heartbeat away from the presidency. So it seems to me that she really has a great opportunity to be groomed for the possibility of being, at some point, the occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, arguably the most celebrated, most influential political address in the world.
What does she specifically bring to the ticket or to the table?
First of all, she is one of those people you wouldn't have any doubts about talking about how competent she is. You've seen her on television.
Absolutely.
Operating in her capacity as a senator, especially when you look at her in the Judiciary Subcommittee of the U.S. Senate. The kind of questions that come from her when she's interviewing some of the senior Trump administration officials, when she's seeking some sort of accountability, you cannot doubt the kind of skill that that lady has. She is an incredibly charming individual. those who know her, both supporters and those who oppose her from, in fact, both sides of the aisle, have enormous, at least have said how they have enormous respect for her. They consider her to be an incredibly smart woman, an incredibly urbane woman, sophisticated, but someone that has feelings, someone that has empathy and sympathy, especially for the small guy.
How would you respond to critics, including President Donald Trump, who said that her eligibility to be a running mate is questionable? She doesn't qualify to be Vice President of the United States. In fact, stroking fears or birther fears like what he did when President Obama was running for office. But we know for a fact that Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California in 1964 to an Indian mom and a Jamaican dad. Those are the facts at hand.
President Donald Trump is entitled to his opinion, but certainly not entitled to his own sets of facts. As you rightly said, we know that Kamala Harris was born in Oakland, California in 1964, and that was a time when her parents, her father having come from Jamaica and her mother having come from India, to seek what she characterizes as a world-class type of education. These were students at the University of California, Berkeley campus. And she talks about how they met, especially, not so much on campus, because her father was studying economics and her mother was studying science. As a matter of fact, she's a cancer researcher. They met in the streets of Oakland when they were basically participating in the civil rights movement, the civil rights protests. She talks about how they, in fact, used to take her as a young girl, to take her in those protests. And so she's a kid who was born on American soil. She's somebody that really leaves no doubt where she came from.
Let's go to our first commenter from Abuja, Nigeria. Let's go to Emmanuel Ojefon. He says, Mr. Shaka, how does Kamala Harris help or hurt Joe Biden? There are a lot of people who said that her being a black lady might actually hurt Joe Biden because, again, you talked about President Barack Obama. Barack Obama was arguably one of the best presidents, but because he was a black person, there was so much opposition here in the United States. No matter what he did, he still remained a black guy. People judged him best on the color of his skin, not the content of his character or what he brought to the table. So wouldn't that hurt Joe Biden if elected or during this campaign, rather?
Emmanuel, thank you very much for your question. It is true that if you happen to be black in the United States of America, in order for you to be perceived equal by the dominant culture, you may have to run faster, you may have to jump higher. But Kamala Harris has already jumped higher, has already, in fact, run faster. You know, when you think about former Senator and the former Vice President Joe Biden to be able to pick Senator Kamala Harris, given that he has really had perhaps more than 40 years of political experience, more than 40 years of public service at the highest level in these United States of America. He had to know exactly what he was doing. And as a matter of fact, one of the first people or individuals to react to that choice was Joe Biden's former boss, President Barack Obama. Barack Obama said that Joe Biden had actually made a great decision. That was the right decision to make. And I think the fact that Joe Biden was courageous enough, was open enough to make that type of choice, a choice that gives hope to the people of color. Kamala Harris, as you know, happens to be an individual who represents two races. His father having come from Jamaica, he's black. His mother having come from India, Southern Asia. And guess what? When you talk about her marriage, her husband is white. Her husband belongs to the dominant culture. So in fact, when you look at the team of Kamala Harris as a running mate of former Vice President Joe Biden, you're looking at a couple, a political couple that reflects the real America. In fact, it was Michelle Obama, the former First Lady of the United States, who said that with Kamala Harris getting the opportunity yet to break another glass ceiling, it gives hope, courage, encouragement, motivation, and inspiration to some little black girls, some little brown girls, some little Asian girls. I think we are looking at a huge political asset.
Shaka, you bring up a very good point. As a father of two young daughters, I want them to dream about being a president of the United States. I want them to look at Kamala Harris. One of my daughters is fascinated by Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the U.S. Congress. She wants to be Nancy.
Very good.
Absolutely, she wants to be a Nancy Pelosi. Whenever she sees her. Whenever she sees her on television, she's like, "Daddy, can you take me to go and meet Nancy Pelosi?" So I think I'm making arrangements to make that happen. And the fact that you talked about what she brings to the table, I could not agree with you more. I think her being there, it opens up so many opportunities for a lot of young women out there who look at some of these positions and they say, under no circumstances can I be part of that club. But here we are talking at a potential vice president for the United States of America.
A potential vice president who, as I said earlier, will be a heartbeat away from the presidency. We can talk glowingly about Kamala Harris, but we also have to be politically realistic.
Yes, she has a lot of critics, and let's get there.
She has definitely a lot of critics, and most of them, of course, are Republican or right-wing political people. And they have, in fact, begun to throw what you would characterize as the kitchen sink at her.
Let's go to Johnson, who's talking about. Johnson is in the U.S. state of Minnesota. He says that I like your discussion, but I hope that you can answer my question regarding Kamala Harris's time as the Attorney General of the U.S. state of California. Yes, we might talk about her in a very positive light when she was the number one law enforcement officer in the U.S. state of California. She did lock up a lot of black people. Should black people rise up to support the candidacy of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
If you are Attorney General of the state of California, you are the Attorney General of the citizens of California, whether they are black, whether they are white, whether they are Chinese, whether they are Indians, whether they are Jamaicans, or whether they are Africans, or whether they are Nigerians, whatever you want to call them. And so I think that it is incumbent upon the individual or the person who holds the office of Attorney General to follow the law, to administer the law without fear or favor. And I think that's precisely what Kamala Harris was able to accomplish. If Kamala Harris was not successful in her position as the Attorney General in California, I doubt that she would have gotten the support to become the first black female senator from the Golden State, the largest state in the Union.
Let's go to Sylvia Wambui in Nairobi, Kenya. What lessons can African leaders learn from the pick of Kamala Harris, a woman to be Vice President of the United States? And how can this pick be a source of inspiration?
Sylvia, I think you have a very, very important question here. I think that it is a high time African leaders began to be socially and politically sensitive to all their citizens, regardless of gender. African leaders should begin looking at female citizens as equal members of their communities. And I think that has already begun to happen on the African continent, Sylvia, because the last time I checked, at least Liberia provided an example. When it elected, or it was the first African country to democratically elect the first female president of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
I could also add that we've had two other female presidents. In Malawi, we had Joyce Banda. In the Central African Republic, we had Catherine Pamba as presidents of those respective countries.
That is correct, except that for the latter two, they became presidents who succeeded to those positions through appointments or through divine intervention.
No matter what a lot of critics have said about President Trump, he's still looking good in terms of where he stands with his base. His base has not shifted at all. These are people who do anything to get him reelected. So what does candidate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris do at this point really to win those people from Trump?
President Donald Trump, regardless of how weak he may seem to be, he still remains an incumbent president. And the incumbency comes with a lot of assets. But it seems to me, when you look at some of the metrics, when you look at some of the public opinion, for example, measures or polls, you can clearly see that this seems to be an election, not an election really which is being competed on a level playing field, but perhaps an election which could end up being a referendum on the incumbent president, Donald Trump.
Your point is well taken, but there are a lot of people who say that we've seen these polls before. When President Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, almost every other poll had it all wrong. They had Clinton winning the presidency. And here we have President Trump. In addition, there are those people who said that Trump has done very, very well in terms of economic recovery. Until recently, when COVID hit, the economy was looking really, really good. That's why he has been able to keep his base, to hold on to his base.
First of all, you are right in saying that perhaps we shouldn't look at the public opinion polls as if, in fact, we're looking at a panacea here. But when you compare and contrast the public opinion polls of today and those of 2016, there is a huge world of difference. And when you talk about how Trump, by virtue of being a businessman, his supporters think that he is the kind of person that could manage the economy, I don't think that the evidence bears that out. But you know, when it comes to politics, it's not about whether you did for me something last year. In politics, the question is very simple. What have you done for me lately? Do I, in fact, have the means that can support my family? When you look at the millions of people who are unemployed, you look at the millions of people who do not have the tools, support their children, support their families, to pay their rent, to pay their mortgages, you should ask yourself, why would those types of people want to give 4 more years of a president, Donald J. Trump?
You know, Shaka, there are a lot of people who also have come out very strongly to look at the age factor. They have said that if Mr. Biden is elected president, he will be the oldest president. He's right now at 77 years young. So given that fact, a lot of people would maybe want to vote in Trump again.
I think that those types of people should refrain from discriminating against people against people who are considered to be old. When it comes to politics, it's about the numbers. That base that you are talking about that supports President Trump has never risen to more than 40%.
We saw this happen during Clinton versus Trump. At some point, all these pollsters were talking about how the magic number, Clinton was going to hit the magic number by capturing a few states. What happened?
On the contrary, the picture was not exactly the same. Yes, in terms of national political public opinion polls, yes, Hillary Rodham Clinton was way up. But in fact, even that number, when you compare it and contrast it with the current opinion polls, Joe Biden is in his own league.
To push back a little bit, you talked about how politics is all about numbers. We agree, both of us agree, that Trump has a base that has remained constant. It will either go up or go down. That's a fact, right? Now, Joe Biden, on the other hand, doesn't have that base. Even the Democrats are still divided. A lot of people that I've talked to, they're like, you know what, they should have considered a Bernie Sanders supporter or to bring on the ticket so that they can all rally together the Democrats. You could also perhaps talk about the black vote. Even if all the blacks in the United States were to vote for the Democrats, I don't think if the white people decided to vote for Trump, I don't think the black vote would make a difference.
We can say, for example, that the type of voter who supports Trump, especially those who come from the dominant culture, they are those people who do not have a college education.
But that's not true. I've run into people who
That
are...
is a reflection of the public opinion polls.
But I've run into people who are highly educated.
No, you are talking,
yes.
But I'm telling you, my evidence for me is a reflection of the public opinion that I have been following. So, you should just look for it.
So no, let me ask you, have you ever been polled? Have you ever been polled in these circumstances?
No.
I've never been called to be polled.
That's not the issue. I am using that as evidence.
Right.
I don't have any other metric that will give me the confidence to do the kind of analysis that you'd like me to do. I can only use the facts that are available to me. And the other thing is, by the way, you talk about how the Democratic Party is divided. Yes, it may be divided, but in fact, with the announcement of Kamala Harris as the running mate, there is a ton of evidence that the party is in fact, more than at any one time, very united, including even the people from Bernie Sanders.
It did work for Hillary Clinton. Most women shied away. They didn't even vote for a woman president.
Wait a minute. As a matter of fact, if there is any party that is very badly divided, it is the Republican Party.
Shaka, you remember you and I having these kinds of conversations where I actually said, I called it out. I said, Trump is going to win this election.
You called it out, but
yes, you remember that?
That was... You called it out, I agree.
And the stakes could not be different. Yes, the stakes could not be different. The stakes could not be different at the time.
My brother,
yes.
That was 2016, this is 2020.
Yes, there are a lot of people who maybe don't like the direction where this country is going, but there are also people who are equally interested in seeing President Trump re-elected.
If you are following the story, you can't argue like that.
So what do you mean?
Overwhelmingly, whether they are women, in fact, Joe Biden is, in terms of, again, the public opinion polls that you have problems with. You just look at, for example, the differences between women who support Trump and women who support Joe Biden. And I'm not simply talking about black women. I am talking about white women, even suburban women voters.
But
last time...
That experiment did work with Clinton. Why should it work now with a black woman?
There is a very big difference. First of all, Clinton was not perceived to be a real, quote-unquote, human being who could relate with the ordinary woman.
So it's Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is more of an elitist.
No, I have seen the reaction is completely different.
I mean,
and by the way, people do not vote for a vice president. They actually vote for the head of the ticket.
So no, based on what we have seen before.
Almost every woman is basically reacting very favorably.
So that's what happened when Clinton came into play. Everybody was for the first time, United States was going to have a female president.
No, I disagree completely. From day one, I disagree.
Well, thank you so much, Shaka.
You're most welcome, Ndugu.
Yeah.